The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
Handoff, Elliott plowing to the goal line. Barry, sacked by Lawrence. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
And now, your hosts, Isaiah Stanback, Patrick Walker, and Kyle Yeomans.
It is a Talkin' Tuesday here on Talkin' Cowboys, live from the SWBC studios at the Star in Frisco. It is officially playoff week. Woo! Wild card week is here as the Cowboys will take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Monday Night Football, 7:15 Central Time. Isaiah Stanback, Patrick Nosey, Walker, Chris Beam. I'm Kyle Yeomans. We are taking your calls today on a Talkin' Tuesday. Give us a ring right now. 888-855-2297. We will answer your phone calls starting in the second segment. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Fantastic.
Did you really have to ask him how he
Yeah, I don't know why I even.
That was a bad question.
So there was this game last night, and by game I mean it was more of like a. You ever seen a boxing match where only one side shows up?
No, both sides showed up.
Yeah.
But one got,
Were they just in the wrong weight class? Was that what that was?
I'm not going to say that because
65-7. It was 38-7 at halftime.
That's what happens when you don't play with your food. That's what happens. That's what it looks like when you do not play with your food. And I'd be remiss to if I didn't give credit and roses to TCU for the season they had. I mean, before the committee made their vote, I was one of the most staunch advocates for letting TCU in. People were trying to make the two-loss Alabama argument, et cetera, maybe Tennessee, I was like, it's TCU, and Ohio State should get in at 4, so I think the committee got it right. And then thereafter, obviously, everyone was like, oh, well, what would TCU do to Alabama? That's irrelevant. Win your games. And then TCU goes on to just jumps out all over Michigan.
Yeah.
And kudos to Michigan for fighting back and making that close and coming within a couple possessions of getting a comeback victory. But seeing what they did all season, starting from the ranks of the unranked to make it into the top 4 and then to do what they did in the semifinal, for me, it doesn't matter what the outcome was against Georgia as far as if it was a loss. Doesn't matter to me if it was a 7-point loss or if it was 65-7 like it was. For me, it doesn't take away from what TCU was able to accomplish. And like you said, Isaiah, with a new coach as well. So tons of credit to that program. They're now aimed in the right direction. Excited to see what they can do next season. That said,
okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way.
Yeah, now that we've got the respect.
Good job, TCU.
OSU got TCU killed. That's basically what it boiled down to. And Kyle, you can confirm. We had this conversation offline prior to the game yesterday. I said because OSU knocked some of our teeth out, that was going to be the reason that the Dogs went out there and tried to send a message. They weren't going to play with their food. They weren't going to turn the ball over. They weren't going to allow, TCU to extend plays like C.J. Stroud did and, get over the top. And from the word go, it was on and cracking. 65-7. Should have been 72-0, but, I'll let it slide.
Yeah, you'll let it slip.
I'll let it slide, Kirby. Next time, 72-0. And stop that kneel at the end.
Could have kept it going. Well, congrats, my friend.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Back-to-back. I mean, Georgia's the class of college football right now. I mean, you cannot argue it. They are the class.
40-year drought. Oh man, it's remarkable. But it goes to show what can happen when everyone buys in and everyone is on the same page. And yes, there's some subtlety that I'm including here,
no doubt, regarding
the team that we cover. So buy in. Let the timely, and I said it on Twitter. I was like, sometimes a timely butt whooping serves a purpose. And Ohio State whooped our butt, and luckily we escaped. But a timely butt whooping gave us exactly the fuel we needed. So now the Cowboys, they got a timely butt whooping in Week 18. So I'm expecting the same thing.
So proud of you.
Yeah, I feel good, man.
So proud of you.
Isaiah, did you ever have, whether you were at Washington, here in the NFL, did you ever have just a complete whooping to where you were so angry, so embarrassed by it that you came back out and you played better the second game, the game after that? Did you ever have one of those?
I don't think so, Kyle. And not off top. I mean, handed them out.
Yeah, you handed out some butt
Handed
whoopings.
them out, but receive disappointing losses, I believe,
Okay.
for sure. But
Because you talked about it yesterday. You've never really been in a locker room that had that you always had dogs in your locker room.
except for like the end of my career, end of my career in Jacksonville, that was different. That locker room was different. Sure, and that's when I was kind of like, but up to that point, Cowboys, Patriots, Giants. I mean, these were like Seattle. Like these were like these locker rooms were freaking solid. Now, organizational structure was solid, leadership was solid. So, you didn't really have those problems in terms of swaying back and forth, of every proper mindset, and that having dogs. Like it was a competitive organization, so you had no choice but to have dogs in there. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping. I really hope, Kyle. Hope.
Here it is.
You've never gotten just flattened by a competitor in any sport at any level to the point
when we
where
weren't supposed to.
Just period.
Period.
Because you as a competitor, you would never go into a game expecting to lose, let alone expecting to get just obliterated. So Kyle is asking.
Yeah, I mean, definitely every loss I took like that. Honestly, I personally.
Okay, well, I'm going to be direct with you, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
There have been times where I've gotten whooped just on the field of competition, and I don't feel like it should have happened. And I know one particular time I was in high school. I was a junior, and there was this one pitcher. It's on baseball. There's this one pitcher. I just could not get his timing. And in one particular game, it was the best of three. One particular game, first game of that particular series, 0 for 5 against that guy. Mm-hmm. 5 ABs, 5 Ks.
Ooh.
Not even. I didn't go down
It's
looking
like
at anything.
the platinum sombrero, right?
He had me just whiffing.
It's not good.
Game 2, 4 for 4.
There you go.
I stewed on it all night till I couldn't stew on it anymore. After the first game, everybody went home to regroup and watch film and break down everything. I went to the batting cage and I started watching his film and I was looking at his release points and his motions and every little gesture he had. And the next day, he remembered me like I remembered him the previous night. So that's what it has to be inherent in you as a competitor. If you get flattened like that the Cowboys did in Washington, show us that you're ready for this. Show us that you're ready. Because now, like we talked about yesterday, there's no mulligan. There's no, okay, well, we'll go back and watch the film and we'll be ready for next week. Next week is in September.
Yeah.
So
and I'm looking at your game logs right now, Isaiah. I'm looking through the games. I mean, the biggest. So the biggest loss that you had as a rookie, the biggest loss you had as a rookie was to Tom and the Patriots, 48-27. You came back and you won that game the next day, but you were inactive on those two. In terms of the games that you played, St. Louis in 2008.
We weren't supposed to lose that one.
34-14. That was probably the one, right?
Was bad.
You had a return in that game, 29 yards actually on a return. Very nice. Yeah. But then you came back, and what did you do next week against the Tampa Bay team? You won that game. Yeah. So, I mean, it's happened before.
Yeah. It's just there's not.
What about Pittsburgh? I mean, Pittsburgh was pretty good in 08. They were 2013. That wasn't an embarrassing loss. It wasn't like that St. Louis game specifically.
What about the Philly game that year?
Oh, why you got to bring that one up?
Philly game, 44-6. Yeah, that was the end of the game.
That's what we're talking about.
That was because Isaiah was on IR. That wouldn't have worked out the same way.
Being on the receiving end of a whooping, it happens.
It happens. It does happen. But I mean, the reality is, you just want to come back and you want some dudes that have the mindset that was not us.
That's facts.
And that's really what it comes down to. That was not us. And we like to believe that that's the case because of what you said yesterday. We've seen the other side of it.
Right.
But then we still have to go to the hope and say that we hope that they respond the correct way. So that's what we're waiting on. We're going to be waiting on that for another 6 days to see if these guys are going to show up and do what we know that they're capable of doing and what is the mindset in that locker room.
Do you think that could happen? Do you think this locker room has the leadership in place, the coaching on top, to say, okay, that wasn't us. It's time to go out and actually do this thing? Because you've talked about it before. Flipping a switch is not easy in the NFL.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible. But can they flip a switch?
I think Dallas's switch is their competition.
Okay.
You know, and I think it's a sensor. I don't think it's a switch. I think the switch is on. It's just you walk in the room and the motion sensor just comes on. So I think, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be their motion sensor. They walk in there like, oh yeah, these guys can play.
The lights are already on when you walk in.
Yeah, as soon as you walk on, they're like, oh, this is a new opponent. Oh, these guys can play. Let's go. Unfortunately, that's where they're at right now, and it's a bad thing. But at the same time, okay, at least there's a high probability that they're going to show up and be ready to play in this game because of their competition level. So it's a pro and a con. You much rather them just always be ready to roll. That's not who these guys are, but I think that they'll be ready to compete at their highest level.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a con. Playing down to your competition is never a wise thing. Playing with your food is never a wise thing. But, like I said yesterday and kind of to echo what Isaiah is saying here today, there are no bad teams in the playoffs. There's no competition to play down to, because even if you feel like you're the better team, I mean, look at each of these teams and look at who they've beaten over the course of the season as far as NFC. If you're just focusing on NFC, you can't go up against any of these teams and feel like, okay, although I feel like I'm better than them, I'm in a position where I'm so far ahead that I can turn down. No, you can't. You can't turn down against Tom Brady. And should you advance, you can't turn down against the Philadelphia Eagles or whomever your next opponent is going to be. So I think now that the good news is for Cowboys fans is that part of the Cowboys is in the rearview mirror, just simply because there are no more bad teams to play. But I do feel like this is a Cowboys team that can bounce back from that, not only because the evidence is there, but let's talk about who's in the locker room. Yes, there's a lot of youth in the locker room, but there are also players like Tyron Smith. There are players like DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons. There are players like Trevon Diggs, Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Jason Peters, T.Y. Hilton, right? You have these veterans, and a lot of these veterans you brought in Anthony Barr to mentor as much as you brought them in to play between the lines. So these guys are keeping their respective position groups in check and saying, hey, young fella, this isn't anything we haven't seen before, but this is how you need to regulate your emotions and mindset going into the game. You need to own everything that happened in Week 18 and understand what's in front of you at Super Wild Card Weekend. And I think that alone is what can help the Cowboys bounce back. So, like I said, T.Y. Hilton, Jason Peters, Anthony Barr, the list goes on and on. These veterans, these free agent veterans, Jonathan Hankins via trade, these guys were brought in to help guys like Tank, Micah, Dak, Zeke, mentor and Dalton Schultz and what he does with those young tight ends, Jake and Peyton and Sean. There's more than enough mentorship in that locker room to say that's not us. So let's show everybody who we really are.
I think the veterans in this locker room, especially the new additions, are the least of your worries, because these guys recognize that this is literally their last shot to get a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah. A lot of the guys that you brought in, for
so
sure.
You're saying the new additions can't stand the rain.
I see what you did there.
Right?
That's good.
Yeah,
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, these guys are going to be hungry.
Yeah.
They're going to be very hungry. And then you talk about Xavier Rhodes that just got picked up. He's going to be hungry, too.
He'll be on the field.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's no accident what this front office has done in terms of the guys, the caliber and the type of players that these guys have brought in. These guys all want some jewelry.
Right.
And this is their last shot at it.
Believe it.
So instead of just bringing in just talent, you brought in talent that has experience and talent that has experience that is at the end of their road, that are high caliber players that would like to put a doggone ring on it before they finish up.
And it was interesting, kind of playing off of both of your points here. And Brian Daboll, in his press conference yesterday before they take on the Vikings, Giants, and Vikings on Sunday, he said that the playoff experience it's overrated. He said, overall, as a coach, the playoff experience is overrated. You've got a coach that has a ton of playoff experience. You've got a roster up and down that has playoff experience for the most part. I mean, most of this team was here last year, and they suffered that loss, kind of like what we talked about yesterday. Do you think it's overrated in that regard, or do you think that's actually a positive thing to know, hey, we were close once before, we didn't get there?
I think from his statement, I believe is true.
Okay.
From the coach's perspective. Because I don't see how your game plan really changes as a coach.
It shouldn't change, right?
Your approach should be the same as a coach. As a player, it's different. And that's why he was very particular to say, he was very specific by saying, as a coach, I think it's overrated. Because players, the game is a totally different level. A completely different level. Every play matters. Everything's heightened. Everybody's watched 10 times more film than they watch in the regular season. Everybody's looking for all those key little indicators, anything that's going to give you an advantage, things that you would naturally do during the season, but like it's just
ramped up.
Way ramped up.
Yeah.
Way ramped up.
And I could agree with that. I believe that obviously for players it is most certainly not overrated because the more playoff experience you have going into the respective playoff or tournament that you're about to enter, if you've seen it all, you've seen it all in the aspect of Jason Peters, for example, from his Super Bowl run with Philadelphia, and his just the tenure of his career in the NFL, you'd be hard pressed to believe there is anything that could happen in this year's playoffs, anything that can happen situationally that Jason Peters, at some point in his career, hasn't seen. Versus if you were Tyler Smith, which is the complete antithesis in regards to experience, he would be more inclined to go through a lot of things this playoff season. This new season that we call the playoffs, that he has not seen because he's a rookie. So he gets to lean on Tyron Smith and Jason Peters and Zach Martin, and that's why those guys become very, very valuable, and that's why the playoff experience from a player standpoint is priceless. From a coaching standpoint, you're going to coach how you were going to coach anyway. You were going to prep how you were going to prep anyway. Now, there's probably some truth to the matter of if you're a first-time coach going into the playoffs for the first time, you're going to have nerves and everything, but you're still going to prep how you're going to prep.
Yeah.
And you're still going to try to be that cool hand Luke on the sideline when you see those players that we're talking about, particularly the younger players that might be in, what do I do, coach? Everything's on the line. You still, no matter what's going on in your head as a coach, you have to look at that guy and say, we're okay. We're okay. Just breathe, settle in, do everything that we taught you to do. Go out there and be great. So from a coaching standpoint, I tend to agree with Isaiah and Dayball. From a player standpoint, experience most certainly matters.
It definitely matters. And I think there are aspects to the coaching side of things, like you said, the pure mentality of it all. Yeah. That cool hand could come from the sideline too. It could totally come from the sideline, from somebody that's been there before. It's one of the reasons why you hired Mike McCarthy in the first place if you're the Cowboys. It's because he had been there before. So, that's fair. So let's – I mean, moving into this second segment, that's something on the mind is the experience that this Cowboys team has, experience that this coaching staff has. Can they just put it all together? That's a huge question mark going into Wild Card weekend. We'll do some news and notes. I kind of forgot to do that. We're going to do that on the other side of the break. When we come back, more Talking Cowboys. Give us a call, 888-855-2297. It's a Talking Tuesday. We'll hear from you next.
When you build, you start with the foundation. And home ownership is a foundation of a stable future. The Bank of America Community Home Ownership Commitment has helped over 34,000 people lay the groundwork so far, with up to $10,000 towards your down payment or 3% of the purchase price, whichever is less. The satisfaction of owning your own place can become a reality. Visit bankofamerica.com/homeowner to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America N.A. Equal Housing Lender. Credit and collateral is subject to approval. Restrictions apply. This is not a commitment to lend.
Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Little Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is. It's a non-fungible token.
Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Are you ready to take coffee off your grocery list forever? Black Rifle Coffee Club is here to help. As a coffee club member, you'll get your favorite coffees roasted, packaged, and shipped to your door free of charge on your preferred schedule. Set it, forget it, and never run low on coffee again. Members also get exclusive deals on coffee, products, and discounts from partner brands. Ease your mind and let Black Rifle worry about your coffee supply. Go to blackriflecoffee.com to join the coffee club today.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
Back here on Talking Cowboys, it's playoff week, and of course, the boys need you, Cowboys Nation, to show your team pride and support this postseason with the best gear in the league. Head to the nearest pro shop, or you can log on to shop.dallascowboys.com, a Fanatics experience, and let's get rowdy. Heading into Wild Card Weekend, it's a Talkin' Tuesday. We've got Patrick No-C Walker, Isaiah Stanback, Chris Beam in the back. I'm Kyle Yeomans, 888-855-2297. Continue to give us a call. We're going to answer those right after some
Newts and Notes. WWRD, what would Rob do? So Cowboys are back on the practice field effective tomorrow, which will be Wednesday. So we'll have many more news and notes coming mid and later in the week. But for now, Leighton Vander Esch, Jonathan Hankins. And Tyler Biadasz are still all three of them tracking to be available for the Cowboys on Monday night against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
That is great.
That is great news. And that was already the case, but now that the Cowboys know they have the Monday night game, that is one additional day for those guys to get ready and physically prepped. Deron Bland, there are no indications the Cowboys have any concerns whatsoever over Deron Bland's chest injury that he suffered against the Washington Commanders, which is something that Kyle alluded to on yesterday. But in having some more conversations over the course of yesterday, hearing Jerry Jones on 105.3 FM The Fan today at 8:30, Cowboys are confident Deron Bland will be able to go as well. I will be interested to see if they give him a kind of calculated week, maybe limited full, or if they're just going to, if he's just completely fine, they're like, go out there and do your thing, young man. We'll see. But he's expected to play. Matt Farniok, tomorrow will mark day 7 of his 21-day window. But it's a win-or-go-home situation. So physically, he said he feels like he's ready to go. But the Cowboys the only reason he didn't play last week against the Commanders because the Cowboys want to throw more work at him in practice to make sure that's the case. So he has a very good chance of being on the field as well. So we're talking about LVE, Hankins, Bland not missing, Farniok maybe returning along with Tyler Biadasz. Cavalry's on the way for the Cowboys. Xavier Rhodes. IRS mentioned him a little bit earlier in the first segment. Jerry Jones said that he expects Xavier Rhodes should get some burn on Monday against Tom Brady. And if you saw what we saw from Trayvon Mullen, then you've seen enough. And it's time to – we like what we got with Neshaun Wright. His needle is trending upward, but this is against Tom Brady. So if you see any struggles there, you love the fact that you have an experienced all-pro.
Just somebody to throw out there. Yeah.
And Xavier Woods, like that, another potentially high-quality move for the Cowboys, as they've shown at several points this season. In the offseason, they're going all in this year. So
you got to ask the Mick Spagnuolo question.
What is that? Why was he out there? The Mickey Spagnuolo question. Xavier Rhodes, I mean, that's somebody to keep an eye on.
It's a two-way street.
It is.
Especially when you're a player like Xavier Rhodes.
It's a perfect time to get on a team.
Right. When you're a mercenary.
He was on the New York, or he was with, it wasn't New York, was it?
Well,
Indy, right?
Colts. Yeah, he had a stint with the Colts. And who was his previous? He had to stay with someone after the Colts. Really short. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I had it up yesterday and I didn't look at it.
I mean, I know, but tired brain because you
had a night.
Sleep last night.
You had a night last night.
Bills. That's
right. He was on the Bills practice squad really from September forward, so he had been at least doing things throughout the season. Right. It's not like he's coming off the street.
Yeah, no ramp up.
Yeah, so keep that in mind. He was just released last week. He'd have been on their practice squad. He had been elevated a couple times. Maybe he just ran out of time to be elevated off the practice squad, and they didn't want to let one of their other guys go.
It was that plus a combination of, for those that are saying, well, if the Bills are a playoff team, they're a Super Bowl contender, why would they let Rhodes go? The Bills at that time, look at the timing of it, more or less. They needed safety help. Rhodes doesn't provide you safety help. Yeah. So between the number of elevations being expired and needing safety help, they obviously were going to let him go. And it might have been with a kind of a wink, like, hey, we'll try to bring you back. But then he got free of the waivers and looked over at Dallas and was like, hey, Dan Quinn,
go over there.
Trevon Diggs, Deron Bland, they got a shot too, and it's warmer weather. So
hopefully he does get a couple extra snaps to maybe make an impact. So keep that in mind going into Wild Card Weekend. It is a Wild Card Talkin' Tuesday. We're going to start with our friend up in New York. Mike, you're on Talkin' Cowboys. Mike in New York, how's it going?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Doing all right? Okay, so I just want you to know you are our Pick'em champion from the last 2 years. You had the first ever undefeated week this year, and then you had a 5-1 week last year. You completely flipped the script on Isaiah and the fans. I mean,
Hey, Mike, just let you know.
You're a hero to the Talkin' Cowboys fans.
You know
out
what,
there
Mike?
right
I'm
now.
happy that you're calling in today, Mike, because we can't have you call in on
You don't
Friday.
sound
You know what I'm
happy.
saying?
Hey, you only play the best in the playoffs, so I think he needs to call in on Friday.
Yeah, hey, it happens. We pick the games, and I'm not going to pick against the Cowboys. I mean, come on. Hey, if I would have called in this last Friday, it would have been bad.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm right there with you. What's on your mind, Mike?
I feel like, you guys just said, you guys said yesterday and this and that, the Cowboys, we got to get it together. And I honestly think Mike McCarthy, he's got to be on the hot seat. I mean, Jerry Jones has come out and said that Terry is not happy right now.
Yeah. Thank you for your call, Mike. I appreciate it because, just hearing Jerry the other day, you could kind of sense the frustration saying that's not going to get it done. At least what happened against Washington. And it's a conversation.
You know what's also true?
What?
Yeah, that's true. What's also true is he was asked that question this morning, point blank.
Nice.
And he said no. And then there was a long pause as if, our guys at the fan were waiting for for him to explain. He was like, no. And I'm not going to sit here and explain. He's just no. He said, I have more than enough body of work to look at when it comes to McCarthy to know that regardless of what happens in Tampa, he's not willing to part ways. Now, I know you hear that, and if you followed the Cowboys for as long as we've covered the Cowboys and or longer, Wade Phillips, right? Jimmy, Jerry's no doesn't always mean no. So let me give you my take on it, and then I'll throw it to the panel. My take on it is this: when you look at the level of adversity the Cowboys have had to overcome. Just in Mike McCarthy's tenure period, his first season was a COVID season.
Yeah.
Right? He made mistakes. You talk about Mike Nolan. He owned it, fired Mike Nolan, brought in Dan Quinn. He's been very, very accountable from a coaching perspective, and he's shown that he's willing to adapt on the fly. But then if you go to the micro and you look at 2022 just alone, a lot of people predicted the season was over after week 1. You lose in horrible fashion as far as how your offense looked, and you lose Dak Prescott. Oh, season's over, sky's falling, wrap it up on to 2023, lame duck season for Mike McCarthy. Keeping in mind that lame duck season was the narrative spun in the offseason because there was pressure coming from all sides that said Sean Payton.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper's traded. Oh, they're trying to set Mike McCarthy up for a lame duck season. Lyle Collins is traded. I knew it. They're setting Mike McCarthy up for a lame duck season. Well, here we are, a few days away from Super Wild Card Weekend with a 12-5 record. So yeah, there's some uglies, but there are far more positives. And we had the conversation upstairs yesterday really quickly. Are you looking, because to me, put their resumes up against each other, Mike McCarthy and Sean Payton, mirror images.
Yeah.
So
Mike actually has more regular season wins.
Right. So at worst, it would be a lateral move. Now reports are coming out that the Saints want at least a first-round pick.
Yeah.
But also more. So you're going to give up that kind of collateral if you're the Cowboys or anyone, but especially a team like the Cowboys who drafts so well to move laterally and hit reset. I just don't see it happening. So I think that the Cowboys are still in on Mike McCarthy. The only thing that changes that is to follow up what happened in Washington, if you just go get humiliated by Tampa. And when I say humiliated, I don't mean you lose 17-14. I mean you lose like 30-3.
That's kind of where I'm at, is you would have to get embarrassed because McCarthy's done enough to stick around. You absolutely can say that. If he's done enough to stick around, is he the guy in that locker room, though? I mean, do you have that same kind of confidence if you lose a Dan Quinn? and he goes off and he's a head coach, do you still have the same kind of confidence in your team if Kellen Moore goes and does it?
If you can keep Joe Witt.
If you can keep Joe Witt, that's a good move.
Yes.
That's a good move.
And George Edwards as well. We got to mention George Edwards.
But that's my question is if a loss happens like that, that's the only way it happens. If you go up there and you fight and you lose to Tampa Bay and it's a tight game, I don't think he goes anywhere. But if you get embarrassed in your final week of the regular season when everything was still on the line, and then you get embarrassed in the playoffs, it's on the top. It's on the table.
Yeah,
it will be on the table. What do you think?
Of course. I mean, you get embarrassed in the playoffs. I think every coach's contract is on the table. But
Sure.
Not
I think
Bill.
It's the reality of the league for the most part.
Not Bill.
I mean, that's different.
Bill's also won a lot more than anyone else.
I'm just saying
Yeah.
that. I'm simply saying that's never going to be the case with Bill.
I think the coach that everybody needs to be concerned about possibly leaving is DQ.
No doubt.
That's the only coach.
Everybody's scared about that.
That's the only coach that's realistically has a chance of going anywhere.
So let
this
that
year.
fear drive you to get the job done right now.
Yeah.
Deal. Sounds good. Give me a helmet. I'll make it happen.
Let's go.
All right, let's go to Jeff in
What
Upper
position?
Quarterback.
Quick.
Jeff in Upper Marlboro, Maryland is on Talking Cowboys. Jeff, what's going on?
Oh, lots of things are going on. And brothers, I'm going to ask you to just consider what I'm saying here. You might not agree with what I'm about to say, but I've been a Cowboys fan since I was 17 years old. I am 70.
Wow.
I love the Cowboys. I love Dak. I love you guys. So I want you to understand I come from a place of love. I've been in ministry for 40 years, and there's things that I recognize. Okay?
This is awesome.
We hear you, Pastor.
Okay, so here's the thing. When you're looking at Dak, and Dak is a man of faith, and I know that Dak loves God, and all we have to do is reflect on why did we get this big picture of what happened on Monday night? Mm-hmm. Prayer came into focus, and we begin to understand that if there's certain things that are out of our control, and we got to go to God. So here's Dak dealing with the yips, and the way that you deal with that. The scripture says that the spirit of a man will sustain him in his injury, but a injured spirit who can bear, God can bear it. So somebody, if it's Jonathan the chaplain or somebody, has got to sit down and talk to Dak and rebuild faith in him. Faith is big to him, but he's shaken. But faith can be rebuilt and grow, because if things continue the way that they do, it will continue to affect the entire team. But if this man gets back into a place where he can say, you know what, God, I messed up, and I'll own that, but I know that you're with me. I know you gave me these gifts. And if he understands that and begins to rely on the fact that God has spoken something to him about where he's supposed to be, when he faces Tom Brady, Tom is a giant, but God is bigger.
Woo!
Okay?
Let's go, Jeff. I am just astonished. I need to touch the star right now. I feel the energy just kind of working all the way through.
The offering plate.
Oh, my goodness.
You understand?
Jeff, thank you so much.
To send your way, my
Thank you very much for calling in. That is a Call of the Year candidate.
That is the good
for
word right there.
Sure.
That is the good word.
I'm speechless. I don't know what else to say.
Beamer Douglas, clip that. And
yeah,
get that to Dak.
that's a cow bite if I've ever heard it.
Get that to Dak. Get that to Dak. Get that to the whole locker room.
Jeff is incredible. Jeff in Maryland coming in hot.
Is a giant, but God is good. I tell you what.
You know who God's favorite team is?
It's right there.
There you go. Got to have the hole in the roof.
Right there.
Well, that's one way to go into break. Continue to give us some calls. You're going to have to follow up, Jeff in Maryland. Somebody's going to have to do it.
Good luck with that.
888-855-2297. We'll continue with more Talking Tuesday right after this.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Black Rifle Coffee Company serves premium coffee to people who love America. When you drink Black Rifle coffee, you are directly supporting veterans, law enforcement, and first responders in your community. Black Rifle's expert roasters love coffee almost as much as Texas loves football, so it makes sense that America's Coffee partnered with America's team. Go online at blackriflecoffee.com and fuel up with the official coffee of the Dallas Cowboys. That's blackriflecoffee.com to fuel up today.
This sweet. Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Little Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is. It's a non-fungible token.
Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
And that's why Washington is going to win the national championship. Oh, sorry. We're back here on Talking Cowboys. All right. The NFL Fan of the Year competition continues. James Wright is your Cowboys 2022 Cowboys Fan of the Year. James brings the spice to every Dallas Cowboys game, and now he needs you to help him bring it to the Super Bowl. Vote for James to be given the ultimate title of NFL Fan of the Year, presented by Captain Morgan, by casting your vote at NFL.com/Fan of the Year. It's going to be hard to dethrone Georgia at some point.
You know, it's just amazing to even hear statements like that. I mean, seriously, 40 years, and for me, you know, having turned 42 last summer, the majority of, and for those that were wondering, yes, I am from Georgia. I'm a Georgia boy, and then, you know, grew up and went to Georgia.
What part of Georgia did you grow up in?
Well, I was born and raised in Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the large majority of my life.
We talked about this because of the bananas.
Up until I graduated high school. After I graduated high school, I departed. But, yeah, I'm Savannah, born and bred, and then moved up to Athens and then Atlanta, and then spent more than a decade in Atlanta. So I am through and through red clay.
That's awesome.
So I say all that to say the majority of my life in being a Bulldogs fan has been, okay, well, the last time they had won a national championship, I was like 1. So that didn't apply to me, right? So to go through that and to see the trauma, you lose into the LSUs of the world in the SEC championship. You lose to Alabama, you know, in the biggest games, SEC championship, and then you're up on them in the SEC championship, and they put Jalen Hurts in, and apparently we didn't watch any film against Hurts because he went all C.J. Stroud on us. So to have those types of heartbreaks and then 4 decades of that kind of heartbreak, you break through the barrier. But this is a perfect example of what can happen in sports, particularly football. Once you finally break that ceiling, it then becomes easier to buy in the next year.
Yeah.
So if the Cowboys can finally break this, 2.5 decade long drought, it'll become that much easier to get 7, the 7th Super Bowl win for this franchise. Because once you get 6, now you start believing again. Right now, you're so far removed as an organization from the last one, it gets more and more difficult psychologically to believe it can happen. So if you look at the Bulldogs, 40 years, finally broke through the ceiling and then go back to back. That's what sports is. That's the beauty of it. And it's even more beautiful when, it happens for my teams. Go Braves, too.
Hopefully it happens for the one that's represented behind us.
Listen, I sacrificed my Braves for you, Cowboys.
There you go. Thanks.
So, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Because last year was Braves, and I got my Braves and my Dogs to break their drought.
Brag about it a little bit.
No, but then the Cowboys were supposed to be my hat trick. Okay, well, apparently the universe doesn't want me to have my hat trick, so this time I had to sacrifice one.
It was the Braves.
It had to be the Braves.
Yeah, there you go.
So, Cowboys, you're up.
Let's go back down to the southeast part of the U.S. and hear from Dan in Florida. Dan, you're on Talking Cowboys. How's it going?
How you guys doing this morning?
Doing great. How about
Amazing.
you?
Good. Hey, No C, congrats on the dog.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Hey, guys, a couple things. I watch every game. I watch it multiple times because, I've been around the game for a lot of years as a player, as a coach, coaching at high school level, played through college, helped a kid get to the NFL by teaching him how to watch tape.
Yeah.
And a couple things I see with the Cowboys, a name that I think gets forgotten is Matt Waletzko. I think if Matt Waletzko was still around, I think he would have been really helpful on the offensive line. That's just a thought. And I know yesterday Dan Quinn made a comment about Chauncey Goldstein. I thought Chauncey Goldstein has been kicking butt for the last 3 games. And frankly, my own opinion is I don't know what you get out of Gallimore. Gallimore seems to get washed into the laps of linebackers or get washed down the line of scrimmage. Goldstein plays with a motor, it looks like to me. All right. And the last thing I wanted to say is about coaching. I mean, I like Mike McCarthy, and I think the world of Dak Prescott, okay? Coaches coach, players play. I think the problem on the offensive side of the ball, I know Isaiah will disagree with me, but I do think Kellen Moore is a bit of the issue. It's a relationship business, but it's a results business, no different than anything else. I don't know if Kellen Moore's the guy. Personally, I'd have a plane picking up Cliff Kingsbury maybe and bringing him in and talking to him as an OC. Mm-hmm. I also don't know if Philbin's the guy. That offensive line was nasty with Mark Colombo. I mean, they were nasty. I know you had Big Ron Leary in there, but, they played really well. Anyway, that's my nickel. Just want to see what you guys might think. And good luck this week, baby. I know we're going to get it.
There you go. Appreciate you, Dan, as always, calling in. Always a great call because he's got a great mind. Like you said, he sent a kid to the NFL, and he's an analyst now as well, too. But I want to hit all 3 topics because they're all great, but we got to stay kind of short on them. Let's start with Matt Waletzko. I think he would have been a huge piece of this offensive line picture if he was on the table at least, and he hasn't been, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get a chance to see him. I mean, that's the reality. I mean, it would be nice to have another guy in the depth chart, but we don't know what he's fully capable of. So,
he was much better than what you saw out of pretty much anybody else in training camp prior to the injury.
Yeah, I like
outside of Terrence Steele and Tyron Smith, he was the best tackle in training camp.
Yeah, it would be nice to have another guy in the depth position, but then again, you wouldn't have a Jason Peters, and we don't know how Jason Peters versus Waletzko would have went.
I think I would rather have you out there than Jason Peters right now after watching film because he has been horrid.
Bad. Yeah,
horrid.
Pretty bad.
Well, I'm on record more than once over the course of this season, particularly when the offensive line injury to like Terrence Steele happened, and I said the one thing that's flying under the radar is I think the Cowboys really miss what Waletzko would have brought to the table.
Yeah.
And full blown, you probably wouldn't see Teron Smith at right tackle right now. And then the conversation of where he would have been, is he back at left tackle? Is Tyler back at left tackle? Okay, that would have sorted itself out. But Waletzko showed some great promise before he went down with injury. So something to look forward to for 2023. But
no
I'm
doubt.
100% with you, Dan. And I've said that a couple times this season that Waletzko being on IR hurts.
It hurts.
It hurts.
No doubt. Because then your drop-off in that same kind of category of a young offensive tackle that needs reps goes from Matt Waletzko to Josh Ball. And Waletzko was head and shoulders above Josh Ball in what he did. So moving from offensive tackle to defensive tackle. 3 third-round picks is what he mentioned. Neville Gallimore, Chauncey Golston, Osa Odigizua. Osa Odigizua has been playing well.
Yep.
Chauncey Golston hasn't seen a ton of snaps. But when he has, he's played decent. And I wouldn't say he's a game wrecker, nor is he expected to be as a 3 technique who was originally an edge rusher when he got drafted, still trying to put on weight, put on 25 pounds in the offseason, and still not enough
the Tyrone
just
Crawford
yet.
formula.
Correct. Do you like what you've seen from Chauncey Golston? Do you think he should start taking snaps away from Neville Gallimore, who just doesn't look the same as he did even early in his career?
I mean, it should be a meritocracy, right? And as it stands, and I'm huge on Neville Gallimore, have been, since he came in to the league.
I really liked him coming in. I really did.
And he's flashed very nicely on the first half of the season, kind of cooled a bit on the second half. And that's not me being out on Gallimore. I'm not out on him at all. But right now, Golston is doing more efficient work with the reps that he's being given.
Yes, he is.
Which inherently should warrant more reps to see if he can continue that trend. And then at that point, if Gallimore sees that and the fire in his belly, that's the beauty of the meritocracy. It builds to infuse the competition.
It goes back to what you've said previously: is there's no one safe in that locker room. Everything's a competition. Even this late in the year, you got to find a way to get that culture rolling.
When you're granted reps, make them count. And by doing that, you help the team out. And by doing that, you're either going to make somebody else next to you or beneath you step their game up or get out.
That's the beauty of it.
That's what competition is about.
No one.
What have you seen from Gallimore when you were watching film?
Gallimore's trying hard. I just think that everybody expects Gallimore to be Hankins, and he's not. It's not his style of play. He's a bigger guy. All of our interior guys have the same style of play. They're just a little bit different sizes.
Gallimore's more of a 3, not a 1.
Yeah.
Or a 0.
He's been playing a 1.
That's what I'm saying.
We're talking about technique.
Yeah, I'm saying technique-wise, I mean, they all play the same style. Like, they all try to do swim moves. They all try to spin off. I mean, they all play the same vibe. And that's why when Hankins isn't in there, you miss him. Yeah. Because he's the one guy who doesn't play like that. Yeah, he's a true nose.
He's bad.
Yeah,
hopefully. I hope he's back and
Not
fully
hopefully.
healthy. I want him to be fully healthy.
Didn't the minister just?
It's another hope.
It's a hope.
Didn't the minister just give you the good word? Hope.
If Jeff in Marlboro, Maryland, is speaking to us that way, then you're right. I do believe.
Word.
I believe. All right. Final topic from Dan. Coaching, offensive coordinator. He said, put Cliff Kingsbury on a flight and get him here. One, by the way, I think he's coming back to Texas, but I don't think he's coming back to the Dallas Cowboys. I think he's going to end up in that school down in College Station. But what do you think? I mean, Kellen Moore as a whole, not necessarily Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, no. Stay with Kellen Moore.
Stick with Kellen?
Yeah, stick with Kellen.
You've been critical of Kellen in the past.
Yeah.
Very critical of
growing.
Kellen.
He's growing, and he grew a lot this year.
Do you still think he's the best? Do you think he's suited enough to make a run here as the offensive coordinator? Do you think he has enough left in the bag?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think he does. I think that I think he has packages. Last year he emptied his Legos out too early. Mm-hmm. This year I think he might be laying them out too late. So he's trying to find that sweet spot. You know, he's holding on to him. I think you're going to see some stuff this week that you haven't seen all year.
I beware the
I'm going to clip that and post it, by the way.
Beware the shiny new thing, because I challenge anyone that says, okay, we'll ditch Kellen Moore. And Moore has his warts, obviously, but he's definitely grown, like Isaiah says. I'm not going to repeat Isaiah's point. It's masterfully said. But when it comes to Cliff Kingsbury, show me why. Yeah. Show me what did he do in Arizona? Because he was the play caller in Arizona.
Yeah,
so show me what he did in Arizona that gives you confidence that he'd be, for some reason, an upgrade over what you're seeing as far as what the Cowboys are averaging points per game when Dak Prescott is in the lineup. Couldn't get it done with Kyler Murray, right? They had some fun in the regular season. What happened when they get to the playoffs, though? Does that sound familiar, Cowboys fans? You want more of that? No, you don't. Also, Kyler Murray goes down. Colt McCoy goes in. Can't win games with Colt McCoy. Kellen Moore's over here winning games with Cooper Rush. Right?
That's a good point.
So I'm not saying that for those that want Moore out, that's a different discussion. I believe Moore is fine, and he's growing. And it
doesn't have to be Cliff Kingsbury. It's more about the confidence.
No, but to answer the question
on Kellen,
for those that are specifically looking at Kingsbury, show me why, and I'll show you why not.
It's fair. Like I said, not always Cliff Kingsbury. It's just whether or not Kellen is the guy for that job across the hall. He's shown growth. I agree with you completely. I think he's gotten better this year. I'm more confident in Kellen Moore going into this matchup against Tampa Bay than I ever was last year against San Francisco. And I thought that team was in a better spot than this one is.
I just want him to stay at OC. I hope he
doesn't take the leap, goes to head coach.
Just stay offensive coordinator.
Okay.
And I believe Kingsbury is going to go back to the collegiate ranks. He needs to rebuild his brand before coming back to the NFL.
I'm not a betting man. I'm really not, nor will I ever be. But if I had to put money on it, I'd say he's going A&M. I bet you they throw money at him, and he's going to Texas A&M. But that's just me. Travis in San Antonio, down in the Central Texas, the Hill Country, or just outside the Hill Country. Travis, you're on Talkin Cowboys.
Good morning, fellas. How you doing?
Great. How are you?
How are you?
Good. It's funny that I'm calling in at this end of that topic there, but my thing is, I listened to Kellen's presser yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think he's a problem solver, because you've had weeks and weeks and weeks, and we've talked about it ad nauseum of you've got one guy that can get separation in 88 and the rest of them struggle. but yet he doesn't run rubs. He doesn't run too many floods. He doesn't run cross. Like, he doesn't figure out ways. Like, he has to recognize, like, I don't have guys that can separate man-to-man, and then you play a game like that last night or a couple days ago, and defenses now are just looking at it and going, we can turn our back to Dak and he's not going to run. And I think when you look at the Dak component, I think that injury affected this organization, affected Dak in a way, his ankle, when defenses were at least scared of the threat of him running, and now teams are looking at tape and they're going, he just drops back, he drops back. There were times last night that I was screaming at the TV saying, like, they were giving him lanes, he just didn't take them.
Yeah.
He won't do it. He won't do it. And I don't know if it's the organization saying don't do it, because I get it. The injury happens, but at the same time, when was he most effective? When teams were scared of him running. And I think they have to get back to that. I don't know if that's somebody coming in with fresh eyes and going, look, we got to break this down to the very beginning and go, I think he's a very good quarterback. I like Dak. You always got to say that. But I don't think he's a drop-back passer. He's got happy feet. He pats the ball. He's unsure of it. Lanes open up when you can run the ball. That's why Jalen Hurts is an MVP candidate. He has that threat of the run, and passing lanes open up, and guys are wide open. And I think they got to get back to that.
Travis, thank you very much for the call.
Fantastic.
Saying a lot of what Cowboys fans are thinking. Not all Cowboys fans. Everybody's going to have their own opinion. But everything he's saying is true for the most part.
Yes, it is.
There have been moments over these last 4 years of Kellen Moore being offensive coordinator where he hasn't solved the problem of separation. There were times as Amari Cooper, who's the technician route runner in the NFL, the standard in terms of route running, he couldn't even get open because there are ways and lapses in that judgment. In terms of Kellen Moore not being a problem solver as a whole, I think he is a problem solver in certain areas, especially at the quarterback position, like what he did with Cooper Rush earlier this year.
Right.
But in terms of the play calling and in terms of the route running and the route concepts and the build of those plays, there are times when you wish Kellen could have more success building into separation, because just like you said with Dak Prescott, without Dak, you can't do certain things. With Dak, you can. Well, when you've got wide receivers that can only do certain things, you got to figure out what you can.
Right.
And so that's where I'm at with Kellen Moore as a whole. I still think he's grown. I still think he's a good offensive coordinator. But if he wants to be a great offensive coordinator, he's going to have to solve every problem and not just the quarterback position.
Well said. Couldn't have said it better myself. And again, I'm not one that is ready to move on from Kellen Moore just simply because I've seen more than enough growth to say, you know what? Okay, there's still a lot of positive here.
Yeah.
And his needle is still pointing up. Now, is it pointing due north as it was, a season or two ago? No. But you love the fact that he's showing a willingness to commit to the run game when it needs to happen.
Yeah.
You've seen a willingness to adapt more on the fly than ever. Not every single time, which is still a little bit of a problem because sometimes you want to see some adaptations in real time in the game that are not happening, but definitely happening more often and more frequently than ever before. So there's enough there for me to keep Kellen Moore on board if I'm Jerry Jones in the Cowboys front office. And then again, keep in mind, you can't present a problem without a solution. Then you're just complaining. So if your question, not the caller specifically, but as a Cowboys fan, if you're saying you want to move on from Kellen Moore, my question would be, who are you replacing him with? And I just told you I'm out on Cliff Kingsbury, so who else you got?
Yeah. What do you think?
Don't touch Kellen Moore. He's growing. I just repeat it. He's growing. In terms of the concepts and things that he's doing, I mean, you can only do what your guys allow for you to do. Where has the screen game gone? Well, the offensive line has been in shambles, so your ability to run screens is gone, right? Mm-hmm. That takes away from your ability to run the ball as effectively as well.
Also lost your starting RT.
Yeah, you lost. So you're losing pieces that are very instrumental to the types of things that you can do offensively. And just because you replace that individual with another individual doesn't mean that they have the same skill sets, right, nor does it allow for you to do the same thing. So your screen game has been affected. Your running game has been affected. So now all of a sudden you're trying to give Dak easy reads because he hasn't been reading coverages properly. So now you dumb down some of the things that you're calling. So I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying these are just realistic problems. As we're talking about him being a problem solver, these are things that he's having to deal with. The more complex, the more options that are out there for Dak to try to throw to now, the more he has to think. Well, he hasn't necessarily displayed that he's capable as of late to really depict what's going on out there and make the right decision. So why would I complicate things by creating a more vast offense? So can't run, can't screen, can't throw a lot of variety out there. So now you're starting to see a lot of one-man concepts in terms of, hey, this is where the ball is supposed to go, and if you don't go here, throw it away. And yes, I do agree that Dak needs to utilize his legs some more to keep these chains moving, but in terms of what Kellen Moore, his creativity, I do not second-guess his ability to put out a heck of a game plan. I just think that he is trying to figure it out with what he's been handed.
I'll say this to the Dak Prescott mobility thing. That's something that all of us have kind of pounded the table for coming into the season. And to Dak's credit, we've seen it. We've seen him.
He made a couple plays against Washington too.
So I was curious in that conversation just now, and I looked up his rushing yards. Right now, 182 rushing yards, which is the most since 2019. But this has only been in 12 games. So if you extrapolate that for a full season, he's running again. He is. Now,
what's the rushing yards per game comparative between 2018, 2019, and now?
Good question. Let's
or the
see.
last 3 years. Yards per game.
Yards per game.
Did not have it on
20. There. You said 2017?
I mean, like from the last 4 years. Let's say from here to 2019.
Okay. So 2019, 17.3 rushing yards per game, 18.6 rushing yards per game in 2020. We know what happened in 2020. Keep in mind
that's 5 games.
5 games. That's the fractured leg. 2021, 9.1 yards per
cut in half.
But now 15.2 rushing yards per game.
So it's like right 2019-ish.
Yeah. So he's taking off and he's running more. Not every time you want him to do it, and when I say you, I mean myself. I'm including myself as well, because there are times where I'm like, go.
Yeah.
But more often than not, he is actually starting to do that this season. So hopefully we see more of it in the playoffs. If nothing else, we call it live to fight another day, right? If the coverage is tight and you're
water boy,
if the coverage is tight and if your coverage is tight and you know that your offensive line is lacking continuity because they're trying to figure some things out, and you're in real time in that play and that green opens up, just take it and figure out the next play. Even if it only gets you 3 or 4 yards, hell, it might get you 11 yards on a first down or something like that. But the goal here is third and manageable, third and short. That is the goal. And for a Cowboys team that has been one of the best in the league at that prior to Week 18, which they were just god-awful, 4 for 18 on third down, let that 4 for 18 remind you, if you're Dak Prescott, why. If you see some green in front of you, don't hesitate. Take it, get down, jump back up, make it third and short, and now you have a greatly increased odds of converting.
I was curious while Isaiah, too, was talking about concepts and play calling with Kellen Moore. These are Dak's numbers with play action. 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. With play action, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, 741 yards. He's dropping back into play action 27% of the time. So just over 25% of the time. That's what it looks like. He has only 4 turnover-worthy plays out of those 117 dropbacks. Without play action, he's got 16 touchdowns because he drops back without play action 72% of the time. He has 14 interceptions without play action. 14 turnover-worthy plays without play action. And then the screenplay with 7% at the moment, so only 28 snaps on the screenplay. He doesn't have any touchdowns. He doesn't also have any interceptions. He also has not had a single turnover-worthy play charted throughout the entire season. He has just over 100 yards, a little bit less than that. So screenplays, play action, it's almost like it works sometimes.
Something you want to say, Isaiah?
Yeah, what you got, Isaiah?
Something's written all over your face.
I have nothing. I've just
go ahead and say it.
Just been the same comments coming from me for a very long time now. So glad people are starting to see it.
It works.
Yeah,
you know. All right, that does it for us here on Talkin' Tuesday. By the way, we went 4 for 4 on great phone calls today.
Oh, facts.
Mike in New York, Jeff in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, Dan in Florida, Travis in San Antonio. For Chris Beam, Isaiah Stanback, Patrick Nosey Walker, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long for Talkin' Cowboys. We'll see you tomorrow.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!